Welcome. Another beautiful day here, and it's Purim tonight, 5,785. I'm going to speak for a couple of minutes about Pearlman versus Ptolemy Canon, the tightest and consistent historic chronology, and it also fully aligns with scriptural testimony, including the scroll of Esther, Garrus Esther. Okay, so I posted in the chat the link to the article, so I'm going to bring up and be looking at that while I speak for a few minutes. I thank family, wife, friends, teachers, rebbeim, neighbors, our ancestors that got us to this point where we can grow closer to Hashem and each other through obedience, study, service. Okay, so I start the Pearlman versus Ptolemy Canon on Persian chronology with the Babylonian kings. There's going to be some overlap. That's why we start with Bavel. So I list 5 of the kings. The most famous, Nebuchadnezzar II. Starts year 1, 3319, 3320, initial occupation in Judea, the start of the 60 years of Jeremiah's 70 years. Then there's Eva Merodach, and the history book's going to have a couple of other people that overlapped with him. And not 2 years, although they've had 2 years. Somebody else may have been running things, and a cousin or uncle of his. Then after Merodach 23, there's going to be Nabonidus II, who's Belshazzar, who actually has 3 years net, but 14 of overlap with his father. So it's the 17 in all, if you include the overlap. Eva Merodach is also Nabonidus I, we call him. The history books don't always, almost never clarify when they talk about Nabonidus. Sometimes they talk about Nabonidus I, Eva Merodach, and sometimes they're talking about Nabonidus II, his son Belshazzar, Bathrid II. Okay, when they talk about Nabonidus, they're actually conflating 2 different people, father and son. Okay, Cyrus the Great. If you go by the 9 years, so that begins by when he sets out and starts to be successful to helping his uncle Darius the Mede. And look at Cyropadia. There's Cyaxares and Astyages, the father, the Medes. Cyrus the Great has a daughter, Atosa, whose son is Ahasuerus, who's married to Atosa, the eldest child of Cyrus, is married to Darius, the son of Hystapes. It's depicted here on the Behistun inscription. Not sure if you can see that. Okay. In his year too, 3396. Then 3387 on Anno Mundi. This is the year one of Ahasuerus' initial authority through his mother Atosa. Cambyses II, his uncle, the younger brother of Atosa, also gets initial authority. So when you have his 8 years take into account, he's getting initial authority at the same time his nephew Ahasuerus is getting authority at Sardis, the same year that the Athens delegation came to meet Cyrus at Sardis, which he had taken from Croesus, who had Cambyses II. He's going to be until 3394 or early 3395 when he dies on the way back from putting down the Egyptian revolt. And dies on the way back. His brother-in-law Darius I was his spear bearer, right hand man, and that's who Mordecai, also known as Latanes, recruited during the Smyrtis conspiracy in 3394. Cyrus passed on in 3393. Okay. Okay, so after Cambyses II dies in 3394, 3395, is about 8 years from when he gets initial authority. Then the group of 7 put down the Smyrtis revolt. Mordecai initiates it. He discovered the conspiracy to advance. They were trying to advance the conspiracy by taking out Ahasuerus himself, the son of Atosa. And Mordecai recruited Darius, the father of Ahasuerus. He knew he'd probably be interested in protecting him and his legacy. Megabazus was one of the founders of the group of 7. And then after that, they decide what type of government to have. Ahasuerus was, of course, the royal blood of Cyrus, and the I guess you could call it a co-regent or co-king, or the heir of Cyrus, but not necessarily, running everything himself. Also, he ended up ruling 127 provinces, but he, started in Talmud. He started with 7, perhaps, and then 20, and 100. Okay, corresponding to the years of Sarah in her life. Okay, Artaxerxes. Okay, so the actual Darius, son of Hystapes, is actually 6 years, not 36. He dies at age 36. So that's a lot of fudge to go 36 years for the reign of Darius I. And all that was during the time of his blue-blooded and royal son, Ahasuerus, of his 6 years. In fact, most of the years of Cyrus were during that time. Everything from 3387 from Saudis. Darius the Mede was during that time. Belshazzar, Nabonidus II, the last 3 years were during that time. Okay. Now the 52-year span is from 3390, Cyrus year one as king of kings of Babylonia. And that began, so 3390, Cyrus becomes year one as king of kings of Babylonia, Book of Ezra, year one, and proclamation. And then there's 52 years until Alexander the Macedonian initial victory at the river by the river Granicus. So that's a 52-year span from the start of Persian, because before Cyrus, it was Babel and then Darius the Mede, the uncle of Cyrus. So, the Persians who were closely related to the Medes. Cyrus's mother was the daughter of Astyages, the father of Cyrus. So, okay. So, and Darius the Mede had invited, requested help from Cambyses I, who sent his son, leading 30,000 recruits from Persia. Okay. Okay, so 3396 is year two of Darius, the son of Hystapes, the Persian, the Darius, the Persian of Ezra. Year two, when we resumed construction of Holy Temple to 3396, not 12 years later, 3398. So anyway, the years of Ahasuerus are 21, not 14, and they begin 7 years prior to 3393, passing with Cyrus. And because Darius, the Persian, is the father of Ahasuerus, not the son, so that throws things off by people who don't know that common mistake are going to be off by, on that, 12 years, because in 3396 instead of 3408 is the resumption of Holy Temple II. Had been paused for a couple years during Cambyses II until maybe up to 4 years before we resumed. Okay, so Mordechai helps save Persia, uncovers the conspiracy with help of Esther, recruits Darius, who's just coming back from Egypt. Okay, so 3396, Esther's queened in Ahasuerus year 7, the year that Cyrus passes on in 3393. So by 3396 is her 3, 4, 5, 6. She's in her 4th year as queen. And then Haman made a name for himself. Daniel had put down the first Babylonian revolt. Haman the second, perhaps even maiming himself, cutting off his ear that hadn't already been cut off. And he had been hiding it. So to show the people in Babel that he was an enemy of Persia Empire. So he gained their trust. And by telling them he had been punished and had his ear cut off and otherwise disfigured. And he was able to get some authority inside of Bavel that had was in revolt. And they had lots of food, and it would be very difficult to keep that hostile city in the middle of Persia. And so Haman went in and was able to get the trust of the people there and got the city, exposed it, and so they were able to put down the second Babylonian revolt. At this point, this is during about the second Persian invasion. So he gained the confidence of Ahasuerus and Darius, Ben Histapes, Darius the Great. And there are three main repetitions in Achash, who has the main repetitions: Darius, Ben Histapes, Ahasuerus, and the son of Ahasuerus and Esther, Artaxerxes, Darius Artaxerxes. Okay. So we have in here who the repetitions are. Darius 2 is a repetition to Darius 1. Artaxerxes 2 is a repetition of Xerxes 1. And Artaxerxes 3 is a repetition of Artaxerxes 1. Also, Artaxerxes 4 and Darius 3 are also repetitions or overlap of Artaxerxes 1, the son of Esther, and Ahasuerus. Okay, Alexander the Great, initial victory in 3,442, 52 years after Cyrus' proclamation. And then there are another 16 years of fudge in overlap during Ptolemy I and II. So Ptolemy, by the end of Ptolemy II, everybody, there's no more dispute about 3414. So by 3515, Ptolemy III, there's no, the fudge, there's no more fudge in the and dispute between the one historic actuality, Torah chronology, and the consensus. And that's why the Seleucid era finally, which begins 16 years too late. The actual Seleucid era begins mid-Alexander, not 16 years later. So it begins 3449 is year one of Minyan Shtara, which is a true Seleucid era, and then the delayed Seleucid era, the popular one, begins later, 16 years later. But once you get rid of that 16 years of fudge during Ptolemy II, famous for the Septuagint, then the Seleucid era and the Minyan Shtara document year count that's fully reliable are in alignment. Okay. All right. So anyway, within that, just look at it. That shows including that, it's 140 years of fudge from mid-Cyrus until Alexander, and then 16 years of fudge during Ptolemy 1 and 2. Probably during Ptolemy 2. It could just be that, they already realized there is some overlap between Ptolemy 1 and 2, so maybe it's just more overlap. But look for the Septuagint around 3499 or 3500, not 3515, which is the end of Ptolemy II. It happened, the 72 Torah sages was already 15 or 16 years before the death of Ptolemy II. All right, so also check out Pearlman's Chazal based on the 52-year Persian span and Second Temple era. And of course, we start way back from the start of time. The hyperdents start at the end of the year at Tehu, conception, void, before the start of time, before the physical universe, week one creation, and all the way to now 5,785 years from the hyperdent start. And in volume one, Pearlman framework of 6 principles for understanding science and context, Moshe Emes series, Moshe Emes. Moses had a right to begin with. Volume then covers items like radiometric dating, including carbon dating, how they align as well or better within Torah, the factual aspects, genetics, plate tectonics, dendrochronology, tree ring dating, ice core dating. Okay, they all can align with 5,785 as well or better overall. And volume 2, distant starlight in Torah, how distant starlight not only aligns with the Torah narrative and chronology, but attests to it and falsifies everything. Every model that requires over 5 million years having elapsed from the hyperdent start has been properly falsified based on basic physics and math, laws of probability. And volume 3, Torah chronology, so have Abraham, have the ice ages, okay, so from first Adam till genetic Adam, first Adam and genetic Eve start on day 6 until first Adam, that is first Adam and the God of Eden on day 6. And that's start of year 1 on a Monday. This is 5,785. Subtract 2025 and the Christian era, the calendar, 5,785 minus 2025 is 3,760. If you want to convert things to before and after the Christian era, well, that's easier to use the Anno Monday. Just makes it much easier to see where the consensus, the flaws in consensus are, and to do the math. Going back to creation, Noah birth 1,056, probably the basis for the Chinese year count, assuming that it's an accurate year count, statistically speaking. That would be the historic basis, 1,056, so they're very close. Then 1948, birth of Abraham. 1996, start of the dispersion from Babel. Canaanites come to the land of Shem in Aver, the Hebrew up here. 2006, Noah passes on 350 years after the flood, when he was year 600. The asteroid impacts year, the transition from the original single continent to the onset of the ice ages. Okay, so 350 years from the Mabul impacts year, global flood of Noah, until the founding of Egypt, who didn't leave to found Egypt full time until Noah passed on. So stayed with him a decade after the start of the dispersion of Babel in that area before going down to found Egypt full time. In 2006, Abraham goes down at age 76 in 2024. Joseph elevated to viceroy in 2229 at the age of 30. elevated by Third Dynasty to Djoser, then 210 years to the Exodus, 2,448, within a few years of the passing of Pepe too. 108 years later, start of the Hyksos occupation. Okay, anyway, you could just check it out. 400 years from the start of the Hyksos occupation to Ramses II, who's Shishak, the father-in-law of Solomon. It has several repetitions there. Shishak is the basis of many of those repetitions, like Ramses II. The father-in-law of Solomon, and who began about the same time. Check out the 10 historical eclipses, Shishak identification on Ramses II. And we have a lot on Egyptology also. Okay, so have a happy Purim. Try to reference it, consider it, recommend and share it to help correct the history books. And the truth is Moses had it right to begin with. Every human life is sacred. One common Father, Hashem, God of Abraham. And the sooner we realize that, sooner we can restore the Holy Temple. Hashem will, the divine presence will be ultimately manifest again, like it was for during the Tabernacle of Moses and the first Holy Temple. I believe during the second Holy Temple to some degree, the clouds of glory, but I have to double check that. And there will be, that's the only viable way, I guess, for global peace, respect, and prosperity. So we could do it the easy way or the hard way. The hard way is, most people get blown up. And the few survivors, we've already done it pretty much the hard way. We could always get worse, so let's not choose that option. It could be you can do it the hard way, lowly riding on a donkey, or if we merit it, riding on the wings of eagles. Or if we need it, Hashem will do it because Hashem's reliable. And look at Daniel, the time of Daniel's the 2300 years. So it seems like we're in the midst of it's Friday afternoon, and we're in the midst of the completed redemption process. So, the redemption process began, I guess, with the Exodus from Egypt and Revelation at Sinai. But now we're getting into the completed redemption, which I believe began about 100 years ago in earnest, about 2,300 years after 3389, the fall of Babylonia, by Daniel's handwriting on the wall and the lines. Then that was 3389. Okay. Gonna try to sign out. If any questions, you could try to put them in the comments.